But we would like to encourage anybody who wants to share what Kurt meant to them to come after us. And I know Jonathan and Gwendolyn have some things that they would like to say too. I wrote something because I'm more comfortable with writing than just speaking. So this is a tribute to my Uncle Kurt. There comes those moments in your life where you pause to look around and you ponder how you got to this point. Some look around and find that they're in a pleasant spot and marvel at the beauty. Others look and see the destruction and rubble around them. But we can all look back, if we will, and zoom out from our present perspective for a moment to retrace our steps. We can see the twists and turns and forks in the road where we made various decisions that have each led us to the place that we are today. And when I look at my path and follow it back to my childhood, one thing that I find along my trail is my Uncle Kurt. It's not an overwhelming presence, but it's there, and I can see that it made a difference. When I zoom in and look at that part of my life, I find that Uncle Kurt's path crisscrosses mine. As my childishly carefree path blithely goes along, his steady and meaningful path comes and goes, touching, crossing, and sometimes gently influencing mine in a certain direction. One beautiful way that Uncle Kurt has touched my life is through his exemplary marriage. I don't know of anyone in my life that has been a better living picture of the two marriage partners being one. To know Uncle Kurt was to know Aunt Marcia and vice versa. There was no denying the fact that the two went together, since no matter what tie he was wearing, some part of her clothing was made from the same material. A beautiful representation that they were both made from the same fabric. In their marriage, there was never the joke made at the other one's expense or snide remarks about marriage. Why poke fun at yourself? They were one. They loved each other and cared for each other and ministered together. They were an inspiration and an example for me to look up to. Thank you, Uncle Kurt and Aunt Marcia, for your example on this earth through your marriage of the beautiful bride of Christ. Well done. I distinctly remember my Uncle Kurt and Aunt Marcia ministering together, leading backyard Bible clubs. Uncle Kurt could captivate any child's attention with his exuberant personality, his cheerful, upbeat voice, or a sudden song sprouting from his smiling mouth. The stories that he told from the Bible came to life right around you. You could feel the heat of the fiery furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and you could see Daniel down in that lion's den. You could smell the perfume being poured out on Jesus' feet, and you could feel the touch of Jesus as he lifted a child like you onto his lap. You could tell that the stories that Uncle Kurt told were real to him. His passion showed that he really believed it because all this had made a difference in his life, and it made you want to experience that difference too. When Uncle Kurt told missionary stories, you entered right into life in faraway lands. You could taste exotic fruits and see dusty trails leading to distant villages. You felt the fear of the dark forest, and you understood about deep faith and daring adventures. You also understood the dire need of others to hear about God. These stories from Uncle Kurt are ones that influenced my path to turn to the mission field. While my life was so trustingly absorbent, God let those missionary stories sink deep into my subconscious. So they were there when, still in elementary school, I felt God calling me to be a missionary. When studying about the Aborigines far away in Australia, I knew what it meant that they lived so many kilometers down a dirt path. It meant that they had not heard Jesus, and it meant that someone had to walk that path and tell them. With those inspiring stories ingrained in my memory told by my uncle, who was a faithful example of a life totally lived for God, how could I say anything but yes to God? I wanted to be one of those people who walked the dusty trails and told others about the freedom they can have in God. As Tony and I and our family have been on the mission field for the past 12 years, Uncle Kurt has been one of our cheerleaders. He's been the senior missionary encouraging the junior. He was always concerned for us to have the things that we needed, and especially enough CEF materials. He was generous. Even though he himself was supported financially by others, he gave to us. In fact, the last touch I had by him was him giving me a little extra something. He believed in us so much that he even shared his speaking time at camp to give us a chance to tell what God is doing in Paraguay. I am honored that so great a saint poured out a bit of his life into ours. And I'm inspired that now he is among the great cloud of witnesses cheering us on as we run our race to the finish. As I look back and I ponder the steps that brought me where I am today, I'm glad that Uncle Kurt's life touched mine. I'm glad that he was there when my heart was still fresh and moldable. I'm glad that he made the Bible come alive for little children. And I'm glad that he told me of the needs in foreign lands. Many lives in Paraguay have been changed because a little girl heard Uncle Kurt's missionary stories and went and told others about God. Thank you, Uncle Kurt, for the gift of a life well lived and a story well told. Your gift goes on. Sorry to make everybody cry. Anybody else?
Jonathan has something.
Jonathan.